In this chapter, we move into more advanced vector tools, including the Shape tool, custom shapes, and advanced vector text capabilities. So let's get started. In this lesson, I get to show you how you can take advantage of vector text, but I'm also going to throw in a whole bunch of other really cool features as well, starting with visually expanding my canvas. So I am pressing C to go to the crop tool, and I'm visually expanding the canvas by taking my crop tool and dragging it out to the right. Now I'm just visually deciding how much more space I need. Now if I do this right now and I press the return or enter key, you'll see that I have added the background color. If it's important to you to add transparency, which in fact I want you to do, you can undo this. You can Option or Alt double click on background, change this to be called sunflower, hit the return key, and now try the same thing. Crop tool, expand this area. And by the way, if you have to have an exact amount, press Command or Control R to bring up your ruler, and then you can visually see and also measure how far out you're going in your canvas. And when I press the Enter key, you'll see that now I've added transparency. Now the reason I did that is because I want to show you a really cool feature that's called Content Aware Scaling. And in order to take advantage of it, you do need a layer. So in fact, if you go up to Edit, you'll see that Content Aware Scale is an option. If this is grayed out, you probably still have your background layer. Now before I use this, I want to expand just the sky, but not my flower. So I'm going to protect my flower by taking my Quick Selection tool and building a really quick mask. Really quick. It doesn't have to be perfect because the whole point of this mask is to simply tell Photoshop that I don't want to transform this particular item. Now, next I need to go under Select and choose to save this selection. I'll call it Flower Mask. Press OK. That has saved this as a channel. And then I'll deselect. Control D or Command D. Next, I'll go under Edit to Content Aware Scale and choose to protect up in my options that flower mask, and you'll see that now I can expand the sky, but my flower is not affected. How cool is that? Press Return key, and I'm ready to go and add my other image and my text. So, butterfly. This image is already on a transparency background, so this is great. I can just take the tab, move it down, take my Move tool, and slide this image right on over, and then close it up. Now, I want to add a little bit of motion to this. So I'm going to change this image into a smart object by choosing Filter, Convert for Smart Filters. Click OK. And then I'm going to add a blur that is called Motion Blur. And I'll just slide this down so I can see it a little better. I can choose the distance and the angle in which I'm going to make this motion blur. I can click OK, and you can just decide whatever works well for you. You can be very exaggerated because you do have this mask that you can take advantage of. I don't want it to be totally blurry on the top, so I can take my paintbrush, make sure I'm at 100% black, and I can just click on the mask to make sure that I'm painting on this. And if I even want a more gradual transition, I can press 2 to have a 20% opaque brush, and then I can just kind of use my painting skills in order to fade that motion in. But of course, this looks a lot better than just that. Looks slightly more realistic. Now I'm taking my Move tool and just nudging that over a little bit, and I am now taking my pen tool. Now make sure before you create a path that you are not on Shape Layer, but you are actually on the center option up in your options for paths. And if I click, we'll start the path down here at the bottom, click and drag and click and drag. I'm just creating a custom path. I can always go back with my Direct Selection tool and edit this path. Then I'm just making a little simple little curved path. But I want text to run on this. So I take my Type tool and I'll just simply cross over this path, and you'll see, do you see that squiggle appears? Once you see that squiggle, that means you can click and start typing, and in this case I am typing gotta go to Mexico. I can select all, Control A or Command A, Control Shift greater than or lesser than to make it larger or smaller. But you'll notice my text is now flowing along the path. All your other text features work the same. In fact, I can make this a little bit smaller because maybe I've decided that I want this to be shouting, "Gotta go to Mexico." And you'll notice that my type options are up here. I can click on this little screen and I can choose that I want all caps or small caps or superscript or faux bold or faux italic. I'll choose all caps for this. And then I'll also change the font. But again, changing my font, I can either use the character panel or I can come up to the character selection drop-down menu in the options and just press the arrow key down until I find the font I want to use. And I'll go ahead and choose this one. Now, who's to say that I don't send this file out to somebody else to use? And in fact, I'll confirm this by clicking on the checkbox. And they come back to me and say, you know what? This came up in Courier because I don't have that font. Well, that's a really simple solution to solve. All I need to do is have that type layer selected. Close this up. Type layer selected. Choose Layer, Type, and choose either Create Work Path or my favorite, Convert to Shape. And the reason I'm using Convert to Shape is because it makes it really easy for me to see my vector path and also to change the color. So I can just click on that color thumbnail and then change the color to whatever I want. Now, once it's been converted into paths, you can still Control T to scale it. You can still edit those paths with the direct selection tool if you want, but it does not exist as text anymore. In fact, I'm going to press Enter to confirm my transformation. You'll see the path is visible. I'm clicking on the path to deactivate that so you can see better what that looks like. And I can see that that is a little dark. We'll go ahead with a lighter color. There we go. And maybe even put a drop shadow underneath it so you can see it a little bit better. There we go. Change the size. Okay, so let's say that you've got this set up and you went and did your text and maybe you want to put another text layer in. So I'll come up here to the top and I'll type in Mexico and I'll make this a little bit bigger and throw in some extra keyboard shortcuts for you. So again, Command Shift greater than or lesser than is going to expand my type. I can also just press that I am confirming at that size, press Command T or Control T, and I can scale this out. And I'm holding the Shift key down as I grab a corner. But if you're really trying to scale something dramatically, it might take you quite some time if you're not sure what size you want it to be by using that Control Shift greater than or Command Shift greater than key. So it's sometimes easier just to transform it. And you'll notice that when I hit the Enter key or Return key, that the size is registered. You're still maintaining those vectors. Now what I can also do, even though it is vector text, I can even come in and I can choose that I want to create warped text. And I can choose that I want to arch this or maybe flag it, and then choose how much I want to flag it. So maybe I just want it a little bit of a flag and click OK. Some other things, you'll notice that the space between the I and the C could be adjusted a little bit. So I'm holding down my Alt key and pressing the arrow key to the left or to the right, depending upon what you need to do. Again, just cleaning this up a little bit. If I were to select all of this text and hold down the Alt and the arrow keys, it would of course be doing tracking instead of kerning. Now, again, this needs to be vector. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure this is selected. I'll confirm my text change and then choose Layer, Type, Convert to Shape. Now something to consider, if you were to save this file right now, and I'll choose Save As, if I save it as a PSD, that vector text is going to be maintained. If I choose to save it as a PDF, it will also be maintained. And if I choose to save it as an EPS, it will also be maintained. So if it's important to you that you have vector text, which is of course scalable, so that if this is produced and your image is 300 dpi, your text is not actually 300 dpi. And of course, that helps you to avoid all that stair-stepping look. It's a really good idea to save it in one of those formats to maintain your vectors.